Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are dialing from. And welcome to the customer experience session delivered to you by MasterCard. My name is Andrea Pražáková, and I'm a Senior Vice President for Customer Experience Design in Middle East and Africa, and I'm your host today. What we will be talking about today is customer experience and how can you leverage and design customer experience to drive your business to a better success. And what a better way to start the session with a quote of Steve Jobs. He said once, "You've got to start with a customer experience and work towards the technology." And I really love that quote because it's on the spot. Think first, what should the customer feel when they use your product, when they use your service, and how would you want to have it the most seamless way before you start to put technology in the front. There are three things which we will be looking at today. Number one, understand what are some of the basics about customer experience. Number two, demystify what is the difference between UX and CX, and people throw these words back and forth. So what is the difference? And number three, introduce you to a customer experience design journey. So give you something practical which you could use if you want to relook on your existing product, or if you're just starting and you want to look at your new experience. So let's start with a little bit of thinking. I want to give you a task. Just close your eyes and think, what is the brand, product, which gives you goosebumps because the experience is just so brilliant? You got one? I do. Number two, now keep your eyes closed and think, why do you love the experience so much? What is it which makes it so irresistible and so lovable for you? Is it cool? Is it seamless? Is it fun? Is it fast? There's always something about experiences which we love. With that, keep that in mind during the entire session, because what you want is that your customers have the same feelings when they use your services and your products. Why is customer experience so critical? There are three reasons for it. So number one, it's really, if you don't focus on customer experience and you purely focus on the product itself, you have facing high risks to falling behind all your competitors. Number two is, it's really the new battleground. People don't talk about products anymore. They talk about the experiences they have with them, the service they receive with it. So it's really not anymore about the piece of a hardware, for example, but it is the entire experience in the store or on the website or on the Instagram or with a salesperson. And number three is, we all truly became obsessed with experiences, isn't it? Just think about yourself. How often do you post on Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or Facebook? Depend on our age and our abilities and our technical skills. We post pictures from restaurants. We post pictures from stuff we bought. We record videos when we go to galleries or unboxing things which we bought. Tell our friends. So it really became our integral part of our life. Now, it is a common wisdom that experience matters for consumers. 89% of companies expect to compete mostly on the basis of customer experience, which is a very high number. 60% of consumers have higher expectations of customer service than they just did a year ago. And this is growing every single year. And 49% of consumers were saying that they would switch brands. And I'm sure that if you think about the last 12 months in your life, COVID or not COVID, that you might have switched a brand because your experience was really miserable and you wanted to choose something which would work much better for you. Now, 95% of companies say, we are consumer focused. Do you say it too? 80% say that they actually deliver better experiences than their competitors, which are superior. Now, let's make a guess. How many of the consumers actually feel that they receive superior experiences? How many do you think? 15%, 20, 11? I'm hearing guesses. It's actually 8%. Isn't it it's a massive difference, isn't it? So only 8% of consumers feel that they receive a superior experience. That means that there is a huge opportunity for all of you to work on experiences and deliver a better one. So how do you actually create a delightful experience? There are a couple of important components, actually three, which you need to think about. Number one is ease. It really needs to be easy. It needs to be seamless. It needs to be intuitive if you design something. And if it's digital or not digital, it doesn't really matter. It needs to evoke emotion. It needs to make people happy. It needs to make people feel that they're smart, that they can operate your product or consume your product. And also it needs to be efficient. So the customer needs to feel that what they receive is the right value, what they've been expecting. So these are the three E's which you need to always think about. And let's stop, before we go into a practical piece, how can you look at a customer experience? Let's look at the CX and UX. I think it's really important. This is a picture I really like, that whole iceberg. You can see that small piece on the top, and then there is a massive piece underneath. So on the top is really the user experience. This is like one channel view almost. So I go on my mobile and I shop something. I order a t-shirt and size M and put and pay and get it delivered to me. Now, customer experience is all around. It's really the end-to-end. It's across all channels. What does it mean if I need to return? What is it if I need to call a call center? If I need to complete a form? How do I engage with the delivery service, or if I need to return something? So it's really everything around. It's the entire end-to-end. It's not purely one channel. And now that's supported by service design. So service design is the piece where when you design your products, which you look on the bottom and say, okay, what kind of system I need, what people will support it, and what processes will it run on. So this is the whole iceberg, and consumer ultimately sees the first one, but there is many components which you need to think about. Now, in order to deliver, competitive and credible experiences, let's look at an example of online shopping. So we all horrified of returns, and many people don't go and order through Instagram or on a website because they don't want to be bothered. So how do you make an experience where they don't even need to think about it? How do you create your shopping experience for your users, which will be so seamless that they will not have any fears? People are usually bored with generic offers and they are bombarded right, left, and center. So if you have a product, no matter what product it is, if it's a bakery or if it's a fashion or if it is a website design, if it's a research, how can you personalize and how can you make it more relevant to the consumers when they come to your website or to your Instagram account or enter your shop? How much we all hate to wait for product to arrive. So how can you have a guaranteed delivery for online shopping? I think that's something which is a great example here in UAE. We have providers which deliver fashion within 2 hours. We have grocery providers which deliver between 30 to 90 minutes, which is absolutely amazing. And also, when we shop online, we really, I don't know how you feel about it, but I hate to wait for long email responses when you escalate something. So how can you have support system on a WhatsApp, for example, or iMessage or any other chat services? And obviously also people are very hesitant when they shop online because they can't try things, and that goes back, but because they are horrified also over returns. So how can you have a service, for example, which will allow them to try and buy? So just examples is how can you take away the fears and the pain points and transform them into something which could be much easier. So let's go into the practicality. How do you actually go about to design a frictionless customer experience for your business? So doesn't matter if you are an existing business or if you are just starting out, you're thinking about an idea, you're playing with it. The process applies to every single thing. So the most important and step number one is decide, frame, what are you trying to solve? In what pain points, what opportunity are you addressing? You need to be quite clear what is it, what you're looking for to be solving. So frame it. Frame the business challenge which you're trying to do. Now, after you frame it, what do you think should be the next step? I can't hear you, unfortunately, because it's pre-recorded, but I would love to hear your ideas. But just think about it for a second. So I hope that many of you thought about, to create a team. And the team, if you are a real small business and you are not a big corporation, This could be your family, it could be your friends, whose opinion you value and whom you trust. Because when you're thinking about an idea and about a solution, about experiences, you really want to have diverse perspective at the table, because they allow you to question your thinking, and really they'll be also speaking to you about why something will not work, and you can think the ideas through. So it's really, really important. Now, perfect if you have a team then, and it could, as I said, could be friends and family, or in a bigger organization, bring people from different parts of the organization to the table. Don't do it in isolation. Bring people from marketing, product, sales, legal, technical experts. Now, when you have the team, I love this part, you have to listen and empathize with your consumers. You really want to understand their pain points, uncover their unmet needs, and identify the opportunities. That's a very key piece of information you need to bring in. So remember, we said you need to frame what you want to solve for and who are you after. Once you define that, let's find these consumers and listen to them. I want to play you a short video where you will meet Joe Gebbia, who is one of the co-founders of Airbnb, who will speak about how it helped to solve their problem to listen to consumers. So let me switch the view. I hope you can see it and enjoy.
We pull up the 20 hosts and search results, and we realize something, that the photography, the images of their listings are actually not very good. So we kind of have this realization, we can solve that problem. We know how to take a good photo, but it's not scalable. That's the thing, is that up until this point, we had tried to solve problems in a scalable way, which I think I would call like some of the mythology of Silicon Valley, is that you have to solve problems in a scalable way. That one line of code has to meet the needs of hundreds, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands, or maybe millions of people. So Paul Graham comes along and basically gives us this message, which was the single greatest piece of advice we ever got. Go meet your people. Do things that don't scale. It'll teach you. You'll learn from it. So we fly to New York that weekend. We rent a camera with a wide-angle lens, and we go from door to door throughout Manhattan and Brooklyn. So here we are in the environment of our customers, now watching them use our product in real time. And we're seeing a lot of things that we didn't know were problems. We got so close that we got to step into their shoes for a moment and see the world through their eyes and really see the pain points that they were feeling. And that, to me, is like, that's the basics of innovation. You take an enlightened, empathetic point of view for your customers, you combine it with your own unique point of view of the world to create something new. And you know what happened because of this? They started using the word love in the same sentence as Airbnb. They started telling their neighbors, their friends, their family members, their coworkers. And so two things started to happen simultaneously. The amount of choice started to go up, and the quality of that choice went up as well. And when a new host came to the site, they said, oh, well, I guess I need to have really nice photos to be in the part of this marketplace. And we started to see the number of reservations go up.
I really like this video because he uses the phrase where he said, go and meet your people. So to listen and empathize with consumers is really, really important. And there is one book which I want to mention at this point in time you might want to look at, and it's called Growth Hacker Marketing, which deals with the same issue where a bunch of guys go and raise capital to design an application, and they are so in love with their solution that they forget to speak to the end users, and they end up with an application which nobody's using. And they have to go and reverse engineer, go to the consumers, understand their pain points, talk to them, validate and test. So it's really, really important to listen. So let's now, how we do it here in MasterCard and how you can do it as well is you can collect insights through interviews, which you do face-to-face. And if you're a small business, don't stress that you have to hire an agency. You can do it with your friends and family. You can just walk out to people on the streets. You can walk into the park and just approach people and ask them questions which relate to your line of business, open question. You can co-create with your consumers, and I think that's absolutely brilliant. I love that. And there is a famous brand in Singapore which is called Frank by OCBC. It's a bank. And that entire bank was actually designed and co-created with consumers, artists, engineers, finance people in one collaboration. So that gives you an opportunity to instantly validate and understand the consumers. Or you can use more modern methods if you have a bigger budget to have digital diaries of consumers. Number 2 rule, utilize yourself and your team. Don't outsource everything. Try, especially if you are closed business, make sure that everybody in your team is able to interview customers and have some insights. And if you have a bigger budget, you can expose them to insight by make a listening in for the testing and for validation of a product. So the agency allows you to bring your team in to listen into the conversation so that you gain the insights and it doesn't get lost. Now you've got the pain points, unmet needs and opportunities. Fabulous. So what you do, you need to really define what you want to focus on, because sometimes we get so overwhelmed, we get so much of information from the insights that we are trying to solve for everything. So it's really important to say, what is it what we, out of everything which we heard, want to focus on? So once you have that and you decided what you want to focus on, you would need to create as many ideas as possible. Yeah? And you can do it in multiple ways, but I want to talk about 3. So number 1, you can, get it with your team into one room and say, okay, write on pieces of paper, everybody, for 2-3 minutes, how do we solve for this? How might we solve for this? And then you share and you build on each other's ideas and you say, okay, how would you enhance the other ideas? And in the phase of ideation, it's actually not allowed to say, but this will not work. You need to enhance the ideas. The second method, which is really cool, is get inspired by things around you. Think about nature, movies, books. Picasso said that good artists copy, great artists steal. So how can you get inspired by something around yourself which would help you to bring into your business and copy that kind of model and apply it onto it? And the third technique which you can use with your teams is as well, step into somebody else's shoes. Sometimes it's really difficult for us to ideate and we think we run out of ideas because we are so constrained by ourselves. So let's say I like Serena Williams, I like Steve Jobs. So how would they solve for it? How would Serena Williams, if she had this problem, what would she do? And that's a really great opening of your brain, and you really can generate as many ideas as possible. And that it doesn't mean that you will implement all of it, but this is the phase where you just go absolutely wild, you write it all up, and then you go into assessment what actually works and what will have the biggest impact and lowest effort and so on. Now, when you have a bunch of ideas, you create concepts, you create simple concept paths where you say, what was the problem statement, what's your initial idea, and how do you think it will work? And you just test it. You can be on a piece of paper. You don't need to do a big prototype yet. Just validate your thinking and your ideas. Again, it can be with your friends. It can be with some of your customers. But do first level validation. So now, how does it feel if you validated the concept and somebody gave you the first feedback, but you shouldn't stop there because you really want to ensure that the concept will work and that they will love it. So what you do is you build a prototype and test with your consumers. And prototype don't need to always be complicated. It really depends on your budget. So you can do a simple sketches. You can just, draw something and you can walk your customers through and they can give you a feedback. You can design paper interfaces, as you can see on the slides, and show it to the consumers and, see if they will be able to understand, navigate, and get the CVP. You can draw a storyboard. You can build a prototype out of Lego. You can role play to your friends how their experience in your new shop will be, and they give you feedback. How would they improve it? How would they enhance it? You can build a physical paper model to think, how the navigation would work. You can have your users to come in and say, I have this idea, build it for me. Think, how do you understand it? How would you make it better? Or you can have obviously a digital prototype. So you came so far now that you have a prototype in your hand. So what would you do with it? And your prototype, obviously, I didn't include, and doesn't mean I excluded, when you have a bakery, for example. So you will test your bread. If you have a restaurant, you will cook all of these dishes, invite people, and you say, okay, which one did you like? Well, how would you enhance it? So it's really, really important to adapt the prototype to your line of business and to what you do. But you definitely need to test and validate, because let's say if you're in discussion with somebody, they will tell you, I think this, I think that. But they might not be your target market. They might not be the consumers which you're trying to attract. So it's super critical that you do prototype, and test. And you test and test and test until you really think it's good and great and seamless, and you are comfortable to go live. So you can test also digitally today. You can subscribe to simple licenses online. You can test 3 things. You can test your hierarchy. If it is a digital experience, you can test, your visual, your color, or if you want to test your brand, you can test through UserZoom or Vivo or Qualtrics. But there's many more engines which you can test with. Then this middle layer which you want to test is, how is your customer value proposition? Is it the love at first sight? Did they really get excited? And that's usually done through face-to-face interviews, and you can either go to somebody and really sit down with them. It shouldn't take more than 30-45 minutes, or in today's world you can do it virtually. We often have testing done with our customers and consumers through Zoom, or we get an agency who does it, for example, with Discuss.io. But we do many testings with consumers through Zoom, and it's really practical. You send them a link from your application, you show it on the screen, and you test it and you ask the right questions. And then you test also the end-to-end customer experience. So the first is really about the hierarchy and the design and the first reaction. The second is the proposition itself, and the last one is the end-to-end step-by-step experience. And of course, you also need to test for negative scenarios. So what if this doesn't deliver? Where does the customer call? Is there a support line where it would be easy for them to call you? Because the biggest frustration happens when you only test for happiest scenarios and not for the negative one. So now you have a basic understanding of the key customer experience journey steps. And I just want to repeat it fast for you. So the number one is frame. Decide what problem do you want to solve for. And it really doesn't matter if you are a shop with clothes, or a bakery, or a restaurant, or a website designer, or a researcher, or a physiotherapist. Everybody has problems which they want to solve for their end users. So it's really important to decide, one, what you want to solve for and what is the business problem. Number two, empathize. Understand what your consumers, the ones which you target with your solution or want to target, what do they go through? Understand them in their context, and listen and put yourself into their shoes. Number three, define what do you want to focus on. In that whole scheme of pain points and opportunities, decide for one or for two. Then ideate, just go wild, just don't restrain yourself and allow others to enhance your ideas, and use different methodologies and invite people to co-create with you if you can. Obviously in limitation of intellectual properties, depends on what you're doing, but try to get as many people for ideation as possible. And again, don't restrain yourself. You even will start to cut them down later. And number 4 and number 5, this is really critical. Just because you love your own solution doesn't mean that somebody else will. So create a prototype based on your budget. You can start with a small paper-based prototype. You can go digitally or do a mock-up of your store and then test it. Test it with the users. Understand, do they understand how the product operates? Can they find their way in your restaurant? Do they know how your account will work? So it's very important. So frame, empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. This is how you get to design a really, really great customer experience. And this is doesn't stop with testing. You constantly evolve it from 1.0, 2.0 as your business evolves. So the takeaways from today is experience is everything. I truly believe it. I'm very passionate about it. User experience is not customer experience. User experience is a part of customer experience. So focus on the entire customer experience and then plug in a really seamless UX into it. Bring people to the table who don't think like you. It's very, very important in the beginning of the journey to have people who are different to yourself, because they will help you to enhance your idea. And last but not least, but most important, is listen to your user. Build on each other ideas, sketch, prototype, and test. So these are the takeaways from today. I really hope that you enjoyed the session. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. I wish you all the best on your business venture there, and good luck. And I hope you enjoyed MasterCard Entrepreneur Odyssey, and you will join us on another session.